We hiked over 6 miles across Santorini in the scorching sun to experience the most beautiful walk on Santorini. Here's how we did it, what to expect, and of course, was it even worth it? Good morning, everybody. We are here in Fira, Santorini, and we are outside the Hotel Atlantis, which is the unofficial start to the walk from Fira to Io, one of the most gorgeous walks, long walks across the island of Santorini with some astounding views. As you can see, we're starting as early as possible, about 10:30, and the hike should take about 3 hours or so with some unmatched views. Luckily, the weather's a bit nicer than it was yesterday. Either way, we're really excited. A little daunting, but let's get started. From the Atlantis Hotel, we passed through Fira, which is the capital city of Santorini. It usually is pretty busy, but it's actually pretty quiet in the morning, which is really nice to walk through and begin the rest of our adventure. So in little to no time, we've exited the town of Fira, which was really pretty. There's a nice church, lots of busy streets, great views of the caldera. Definitely the capital of Santorini for a reason. Now I think the next town is either Firostefani or Imerovigli. So we'll keep you updated point by point throughout this long journey throughout the island. So as shown on the map, we are next heading to the town of Firostefani, and there's lots of beautiful sights of the countryside of Santorini and some other small parts of daily life like some basketball courts. But Firostefani is actually, we're in the outskirts of Fira, so you might not even notice a difference between the two towns. So we are officially outside of Fira, as you can see. We're in the town of Firostefani, which is right between Fira and Imerovigli, which is a small little town, still pretty busy, not surprising, it's just so close to the capital. And we still have 2 hours and 45 minutes to go, so almost there. Similar to most towns on the Greek Cyclades Islands, you'll have some beautiful churches with some blue domes and such, but what makes the hike on Santorini so unique is the views you'll have of the caldera and other little islands, which I'll share with you later. And of course, you could see the main area of Fira, which we came from just before. Alright, so we made it to the next town. It's not Imerovigli, it's Imerovigli. My bad, but hey, what can I do? I don't speak Greek. Really pretty town. There's also little coffee shops and places to eat, as there are in all these towns along the way, which is what makes this walk so fascinating, as you see a lot of the in-betweens between the major tourist areas like Fira and Ia, such as the one we're in right now. This was actually our first time passing through the town of Imerovigli, and I was very impressed with how beautiful it is. It definitely is that typical Santorini town that you'd expect, with all the white buildings tumbling down the black cliffs. And it definitely looks like a place with some nice resorts or hotels with little pools. I wouldn't mind staying here in Imerovigli in the future, and I wouldn't think to check it out, honestly, unless I was doing this hike, because most people go to Fira or Ia to check out the more popular Greek towns on the Cyclades Islands. But passing through, we will now hit up another interesting place on our way to Ia, which we can see is getting closer here in the distance, but is so far away still. Yikes. Alright, so we're passing through Imerovigli, and that is Skaros Rock, which is a really cool viewpoint and rock jetting out from this part of the island, which also has some really nice views of the rest of Santorini. So it's a cool little detour if you're interested, but we'll talk more about what makes this hike and Santorini in a whole really unique and cool, and definitely a beautiful place to visit. So for me, what makes Santorini really beautiful, it's not just the white buildings, because actually, newsflash, all of the Greek islands have these really beautiful white buildings and little passageways and corridors and houses and hotels. But what I love about Santorini, there's a beautiful contrast because the landscape here is so black and so rugged, and the cliffs are so dramatic, and the white houses and buildings and hotels really make a really strong contrast, which makes it absolutely gorgeous and maximizes that white effect. In my opinion, why is it so black? Why does it look the way it does? We'll talk about that too. So if you look at Google Maps, Santorini sometimes is labeled as Thera, T-H-E-R-A. And why is that? That's because back in the day, before a really catastrophic thing happened, it used to commonly be called Fira, that is Santorini Island. And Santorini Island isn't actually an island in the typical sense, because it is actually part of a grander thing, which is actually the rim of an old volcano. Let's talk about that more later. So actually, as I was saying, the landscape here is so rugged because Santorini, or Fira back in the day, was part of an old volcano that erupted about in 1600 BCE called the Minoan Incident, which is about 100 times more powerful than the eruption at Pompeii, or about 20 times as powerful as in the atomic bomb. And that is what left it in the way it is today, and there's actual ruins in sight in Akrotiri if you want to see more. But as a result of this eruption and many others through its 100,000 years of history, Santorini has a massive caldera between Santorini and the other little islands, which is actually the old crater of a volcano. So that beautiful bay, that beautiful blue water you see, and the little islands making a somewhat of a ring, with Santorini included. That used to be the rim of a massive mega volcano, which still has a volcanic activity, but does not look like a volcano in the traditional sense. So now that the vibe and look of the hike is changing significantly, as you can see ahead, let's look at the map again. We have 8 kilometers left, about 2 hours, and there are no major towns we'll be passing through here on out, but there is a fruit stand. So if you want a delicious, nutritious snack, you're in luck. Get some fruit here, guys. I'm sure it's great. And there's lots of signs for Ia, making sure that you know you are on the right path. And there are churches along the way, which are always pretty and welcome, and they always look so beautiful against the unique landscape that the island of Santorini provides. So just another little hike update. We are now going along this little main road part because the hiking trail, I think it has a little bit of a break and then it reconnects from here. We're not too sure what we're gonna do. Maybe we'll take the bus because the next part looks really gruesome, really strenuous, really uphill. And now we're right in the middle of the day where the sun's probably at its highest, hottest point. Unfortunately, we're not really getting a lot of wind too from this wall, but luckily for most of the hike, there's some breeze. So we'll see. Either way, it's really fun and pretty and good time so far. Last chance before we die, Vanessa. All right, she pleads the fifth. So I think we conquered the hardest part of the hike, that section right there from that town, and now the views from here are stunning. This is a really beautiful view. The water looks glorious, nice deep and blue. I'm sure the water's very deep. The caldera, nice and pretty and light by the edges of the cliffs. You can see the other towns, such as maybe Akrotiri in the background, Imerovigli, not Ia, because that's going to be the final destination. Not quite Fira yet either, but anyway, this is really cool dramatic views. I make this hike so much fun. And this is little cave. Here we have our first views approaching the town of Ia, right over there. Which means we're on the home stretch, all down from now. A little bit to go, but hey, it's all smooth sailing from here, as long as we can stay cool enough, which is not a problem for me, because you can see I have no problem opening myself up to the weather. So we are continuing to enter Ia, and the views are getting even more pretty. We're getting even lower, which means we're soon going to be immersed right into the town, which we've had a little bit of time to explore during sunset. So we're really excited to explore a little bit during the day, hopefully before the crowds of people are swarming the streets, which some tells me they'll still be pretty busy. We did it! We arrived in the beautiful, famous, stunning town of Ia, Santorini. But of course, we need some food desperately. We went to Piazza Souvlaki Grill House, where they have some really great, delicious, affordable, vegan-friendly souvlaki, which we demolished. I wish I showed you more footage, but we were so hungry. We were a little exhausted, so we didn't have a ton of patience for the crowds, but we visited the one famous church in Ia with a beautiful blue dome, which I'm showing you here, the Virgin Mary of the Akrathist Hymn Church. Man, that was a mouthful, and there were lots of people to share the sights with, and then we could look back at the caldera, which is beautiful from anywhere in the island, and then look back at the rest of the island to see just how far we've come from Ia, before getting one last sweet treat to end our time here in Greece, in Santorini. So as you can tell, we have ended in Ia, and what better way to reward ourselves? First with some gyros, which we had, which are really good, really affordable, at this place called Piazza, and of course some gelato after all that hot hiking at Lolita's, where they have vegan gelato, including chocolate and strawberry. Super excited to try it. It looks absolutely delicious on a hot, pretty much summer day. How is it?
Oh my god.
¿Quieres?
That is so good.
Really?
This is better than the one in
Don't say it.
Italy.
I was gonna say Italy. Oh my god, that'd be blasphemous.
Better than Italy.
Okay. Man, that was a difficult hike because we hiked all the way to Athens, everybody. No, we didn't. But obviously we're not in Santorini anymore. We are now in Athens. But to recoup and just cover my final thoughts about the hike from Fira to Ia, is it worth it? What do you think, Vanessa?
No.
Really? Why not?
Because I felt like you could have explored that first area, and then where it was like actually hiking, I don't think the views got any better.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent throughout the whole hike. There's not a whole lot of changing scenery. You just get kind of little different aspects of the caldera. And for the first bit, you go through some really pretty towns. That is going to be Fira, Firostefani, Imerovigli, and then it's kind of just barren wasteland until you get to Ia. But it was really cool hiking to Ia down from that little vantage point after it finally comes into view, and then you reach the final beautiful picturesque town, don't you think?
Well, because you made it sound like after we got back from, like, after we reached the top, we would see, what is it, Ia, and it would be like an amazing view. But I felt like the view wasn't really that great until you were like right outside of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, if you go really early, you can probably like hide in the shadows to cool down, but it was really hot. Also, I'm sick, so that made it not as enjoyable.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good points. My final thoughts are, if you're to do this hike, I really recommend doing it your first day you arrive, because then it's really cool because you see everything for the first time. Otherwise, maybe it feels a little kind of like old and boring and repetitive. Not boring, but not like you're doing anything new and like groundbreaking as far as like discovery and exploration. Whereas if you do it your first day, it's like you're discovering all these towns for the first time, all these areas for the first time. So you're getting views from the caldera and the cliffs for the first time, which you can otherwise just get from each individual town or little walking parts along the trail. So do I think it's worth it? Probably, but if you don't do it, I don't think you need to like feel like you missed out on this life-changing experience. But if you like hiking in nature and you want a fun way to explore and get acquainted with Santorini, I think it is like the perfect first activity to really get acquainted with the island. Because you see the volcanic rock, see the views, the water, you discover all the little towns along the way. So I think it's like a perfect first introduction. Besides that, is it worth it if you hate hiking and you don't want to be hot, you want to relax on vacation? No, it's not. Because like I said, those views you can get from other places. So anyway, that's it for the hike from Fira to Ia. Be sure to check out my other content for Greece, including other islands, Santorini, and of course now Athens. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace.